Hey, good morning, everybody. I was just out here for my morning walk. I'm down at the park. Again, this is where I like to come on my walk. Anyway, I was wanting to take you back to a time in my life when I transitioned away from employment to self-employment. And when I finally, or well, not finally, when I initially entered the transportation business. So in 2007, I had been working at the Sam's Club. Uh, I was stationed out at the gas station that they have out front. And anyway, obviously, I've always loved driving, but here I am. I'm basically stuck in like a booth out at a gas station for 8 hours a day, and I'm just like, I want to get back into driving as a job. And so the initial two ideas, one was truck driving, but that would have been more extensive as far as like I'd had to go to CDL school and get trained, and then you would be away from home for days or even weeks on end. Or the other option was, hey, I got an idea. Why don't I try driving a taxi? Well, so that's actually what I ended up doing. I went to work for Yellow Cab in Des Moines. And that would have been, I think, June of 2017, if I'm not mistaken. Or I'm sorry, not 2017. What am I saying? 2007. So June of 2007, I started driving a taxi. Now, initially, they stuck me, because I was a new driver, they stuck me on the overnight shift. I didn't really like it, but I had no option but to take it. I would much rather be out during the daytime. But I could see that the money was there. I was going home with like $300 a night or something. I mean, it was good money. It was like really good money. In fact, truth be told, I probably earned more during those first few months than I earn per day now. Anyway, so let me tell you about taxi drivers, right? So they're an interesting lot. And some of them are the proverbial, these drivers are the proverbial fish swimming up the stream. They march to the beat of a different drummer. Of course, I kind of consider myself the same, but I'm not inclined to go to prison or anything, whereas some of these folks, I'm sure they've served some time, it feels like. But anyway, I kind of rotated off and on. I worked nights for a while. Eventually, I was able to move to daytime routes or position, whatever. And I really enjoyed that. Some circumstances, where things change and they don't have a position for you on the day anymore, so you have to go back to the night. Vice versa. So I did some bouncing around, between working nights, working days. Had to go back to working nights, back to working days. I actually really like the days. I've already stated that. But then, this would have been in early 2010, probably like February, I'm guessing, February of 2010. So an offer was made to me to own my own taxi, but with a different company here in the Des Moines area. And so that company's name was Alpha Taxi. And I ended up buying my own taxi and going to work under their banner. I bought a 2003 Ford Windstar. Actually, it was a pretty good vehicle for the most part, but as you can imagine, a lot of heavy driving takes its toll on a vehicle. I don't think anybody's surprised by that, but so I started developing sensor problems with the vehicle. I mean, it was still drivable, but like it would idle high, and it just, I don't know. It had a problem that I just couldn't resolve, and I even went so far as having the intake manifold changed out, and it just still didn't fix it. So now, here's the interesting situation, the tenuous nature of this company. Okay, so Alpha Taxi was a premier company, don't get me wrong, but at the time, the Des Moines taxi market was heavily regulated, very regulated. This is pre-Uber, pre-Lyft, all that stuff. And so the Des Moines City Council controlled the taxi business in the Des Moines area. Well, the guy who started Alpha Taxi, his name was Eric Tracy, and he challenged the Des Moines City Council in court for the right to work in Des Moines. So what had happened was he sued, and the court cited, I'm trying to recall how this went down. I believe the court sided with him. However, the city council appealed, but the judge allowed us to keep working. So basically, we were allowed to work in the city of Des Moines, which for example, I spent most of my time out at the airport. That was my bread and butter. But we were still allowed to work while the appeals process was going on, and we never knew what was really going to happen in the end. Now, the timing is very interesting because come 2011, so about a year later, obviously, from the time I started, I had always had a passion of living overseas, but I was putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And finally, I just decided, well, 2011, this is the year. I got to figure something out. I want to move overseas. So I began laying the framework, planning where am I going to go, learning how I'm going to be an English teacher, all these little details that I'm, trying to investigate, spend time doing. So ironically, I had set an end date, or the date that I was due to leave the United States and fly to China was August 18th. So August 18th, I am due to leave Des Moines. August 17th, I'm getting ready to go to work in the morning, and I get a call from Eric Tracy and his lovely Jamaican accent. He's like, hey, man, the way they do. I can't imitate very well, but, he's like, hey, the lawyer just called me, and he says we have to get out of the city, man. So, in other words, basically, the appeals court sided with the city, I guess, basically, long story short. And so we got kicked out of the city. So it's ironic, the timing, fortuitous perhaps. So August 17th, we basically are no longer permitted to, you can still drop passengers off in the city, you're just not allowed to pick up passengers within the city limits, right? Well, obviously, since I spent all day out at the airport, which is the Des Moines city limits, obviously now I can't work, basically. Not that it really mattered. I was leaving the next day, but still, I kind of felt bad for my fellow taxi drivers that were, in that company or whatever. But anyway, so August 18th is when I left the United States and flew to China. But I had a lot of love for my time as a taxi driver. I really do miss it, actually. When I owned my own taxi, I would start my day at 10 a.m. and I would go until midnight. I I had that freedom and flexibility. I didn't have a wife or nothing, so, uh, I would bring a couple magazines, some newspapers, my laptop, my phone, and, I would just sit out at the airport and just read, maybe spend time cleaning the wheels on my van, trying to make the van look nice and clean and pretty, and talking with the other cab drivers. I had a really, really good time as a taxi driver. I do miss it. I wouldn't go back because, again, one is now we have Lyft and Uber, which has decimated the taxi market, not just in Des Moines, but I assume the whole country, really. The airport itself has actually changed quite a bit as far as the taxi business. Even then, the taxis, we would just pull in and it was easy and it didn't take any work. But now that it's like, I don't know, it even feels like it's more regulated out there with the rules regarding taxis. And so anyway, I do have a couple memorable taxi stories, just unique and crazy passengers. I won't get into some of them because of their nature, but I'll let your imagination do the imagination there. There was one instant. Now, this was when I was working for Alpha Taxi. So this would have been in 2011. This would have been in the spring of 2011, to be more precise. Excuse me. One Sunday morning. So this would be the week before spring break. Okay. So spring break was the week after this week that I'm talking about here. So one Sunday morning, I go out to work at the airport. It's about 10 a.m. I'm the only taxi driver out there, by the way. And obviously, I'm at the head of the line. I'm the only taxi. And this man comes running out. And he's like, hey, I missed my flight. Can you take me to Chicago? So, for further context, this man was from India, and he was flying back home. Well, he missed his flight from Des Moines to Chicago, but he needed to get to Chicago to catch the flight that was going to India so he could go home. And I said, yeah, I'll absolutely take you. Now I told him I'm going to be honest with you, the timing, based on when your flight departs from Chicago, the timing could be pretty tight. But he's like, yeah, I don't care. It's going to be easier for me to find a new flight there. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Now, under these circumstances, I always get the money up front, but I did it at a discount. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I told him something like, I don't know, it was going to be $600. That'd be up front. If it was over 600, he didn't have to worry about it. If it was under 600, I would give him back his change, right? And it was, I don't know, about a 5-hour car drive there. And anyway, long story short, I got him dropped off at his terminal, and I just came right back to Des Moines. Now, keep in mind, by the time I got back to Des Moines, man, I want to say it had to have been close to 10 o'clock at night. Excuse me. So, because I don't normally, excuse me, man. Now, normally I work till midnight, so when I got back to the airport, I came back, got in line, got one more trip, and then went home. So I only had 2 trips that entire day, but obviously it paid pretty well, right? So that was Sunday of week 1. Saturday of week 2, the week following, so that's the conclusion of spring break week. As you know, the airlines always overbook. They always overbook. I'm sitting in line. This is a Saturday night. I normally did not work until midnight on Saturday night. I believe at the time it was probably close to 4 or even 5 in the afternoon. And this is the time in which I'm actually like looking to kind of wrap things up for the day. I went home usually about 6 or so. Anyway, the folks at the baggage or the whatever, where you check in, they could see my vehicle through the window out front with the number on it. They saw it was a minivan. Well, because they had overbooked, so they called the number on my minivan because they had 2 passengers that needed a ride to the airport in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And it was 2 unrelated passengers, but I had the room clearly, instead of being stuck in a car. And so they arranged to use the airport or the flight company, whatever, Southwestern, whoever it was. They gave me it's like an airline voucher type thing that I can submit for payment because obviously they just don't hand you cash. And anyway, long story short, so at about 5 p.m. or something like that, I loaded up these 2 folks. There was a woman and her daughter, and then another younger guy. And I took them to the hotel across the street from the Milwaukee hotel, or airport, I mean. And long story short, because it had already been a long day for me, I'd been at work at 10 a.m. That morning, and it was now, I think it was actually getting close to midnight. It may have already even been past midnight, honestly. So I wasn't going to make the attempt to drive back. I'm just, I made pretty good money that day. It was $790 just for that one trip. Anyway, so I actually, after I dropped them off, I went down the street and got a hotel at the Super 8. And I stayed the night there. Well, before I went to sleep, I ran up the street because I hadn't even had dinner yet. I'd skipped dinner. So I went to like a Perkins just up the street from my hotel. Now, mind you, this is like 1 a.m. or something. And then I went back to the hotel and went to sleep. And yeah, so those were 2 notable trips back to back in a sense. I had a friend that I became pretty close with in the taxi business. And we both drove for about the same amount of time. He might actually have a few more years in over me. I don't remember. But anyway, we would just get up to all sorts of hijinks. And I'll tell you what, I had a lot of good memories, a lot of good times. I made good money. And I really kind of miss those days in a lot of ways. You get to meet some interesting passengers, as I stated. But yeah, those days are, unfortunately, they are over with. You can never recreate them. They're gone, like dust in the wind. And I am signed up currently to work, say, Lyft and Uber. I'm on Spark. I'm on another platform that is called Userve. So I'm on all these different platforms, but I just don't have I treat them more as a backup than a main source of income, because quite honestly, I don't actively drive for them at all. The last time I took a Lyft or an Uber was 3 months ago or something. I'm more than content to just work my regular job. I'm going to get more into that in a different video. This video is meant, I only really wanted to kind of keep it confined to the taxi business. I'm already at 20 minutes. This thing's like long. But it was a great way for me to learn how to be an independent contractor, a sort of business owner, if you will. And I got nothing bad to say about it other than that it's definitely in the rearview mirror. It's in the past, and the taxi business is nowhere near as good as it once was. So, anyway, with that, this is Tuesday morning. Because I am working on the month of January, so the Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm going to be covering topics regarding being more prepared for what's coming. So I'm going to post these offhanded videos on like Tuesdays and Thursdays instead, so I'm not competing with that content on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Anyway, I hope you all have an awesome day, an awesome week. As always, if you have any comments, please post them down below. Please like, please subscribe, hit that bell notification. Also, Sunday night was my first live. I went live. So I'm going to be going live every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, Iowa time. So that'll be 9 o'clock for the East Coasters. That'll be 7 o'clock for you mountain folks, and then 6 o'clock for you folks out on the West Coast. But I'll leave it here, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.